All right, welcome aboard, everybody. My name is Dubious. This is a spin-off of my mix show. It's called Fly in Formation. The mix show itself is called After the Smoke is Clear. If you need, an hour-long mix of independent hip-hop every week, that's where you should be tapping into. Definitely check that out. But for Fly in Formation, I've been talking to artists across the country, just kind of picking people's brains on everything from motivation to kind of marketing strategies and just kind of like navigating the changing landscape of being an artist and doing it independently out here, because everybody has like different insights and different opinions and different angles on it. So anyway, today I'm talking to JusJrdn. Welcome aboard, man. Glad to have you.
Thanks so much for having me, bro. You're doing, even before we get started, Doug, you do something so important, I think, for the hip hop culture that's, shouldn't be underlooked. I know every time you add my song to, it means so much. And it's just something that shouldn't be overlooked right out the gates,
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Like one of my favorite things about doing After the Smoke is Clear is hearing from different artists who have tapped in and either like found a new artist to connect with and build with, or seeing people collaborate down the line. Even just hearing artists tell me like, yo, I found this guy and now I'm a fan of him, didn't know he existed before. Like, that's a win. People who listen to the show sometimes tell me those same things. I'm always putting people up on new music. Yeah, man, I'm happy to do it. I think somebody should have been doing it for a lot longer than I've been doing it. And props to all the other DJs. Like, there's a lot of good rap shows out there that do cover Canadian content. I think like really though, like with my show, I try to tap in and cover like only Canadian content and like only stuff that's just been released every week, So yeah, we're trying to do something that hasn't really been done as much as maybe it should have been done out here. So yeah, appreciate that, man.
So cool, bro. So cool. It's valuable. It's so valuable, dog, to the artist, to the audience, to the culture. It is.
It deserves to be documented, man. Everybody's opinions are so valid. Everybody has these stories to tell that otherwise just kind of get washed away or whatever with history. So like, we have the ability to be doing all this documenting. We might as well. So I appreciate you coming through to sit down and kind of chop it up and just kind of open that door, because I think like artists talk to each other about stuff like this a lot of the time, but I don't think the audience really gets to see it. And it's always been like, watching the legends, something that I love, like watching interviews. Now the podcast there is super dope for that. But like, even just seeing like studio footage and stuff of like how guys interact and act, it's all just so valuable, and you pick up gems just watching how other artists move. So yeah, man, it's dope to be able to do this series and talk to you and all these other artists, and it's just picking up momentum, man. Like, I opened up for January, February booking, and it was like overnight. Like I think it was like 10 different acts are now lined up for January, February. So I'm taking December off to breathe a little bit, but then we're going right back in for weekly interviews, man. So yeah, it's been a lot, but it's fun, man. It's fun.
So cool.
Hell yeah, cool. Man. You've been keeping busy? What you been up to lately?
Oh man, especially over the last few weeks, it's been a little crazy, a little crazier than usual. So yeah, been busy. I started my own podcast called A Moment with Jay, and it's starting to go and take off a little bit, which has been really cool.
I saw some clips from that. You're doing those like in person, actually, right?
Oh yeah, straight up. And the goal is, especially over the next year into 2024, I'll really use it. I got a couple of DJs. I got some people putting out projects where, just using it as a platform, not only for promotion, but
yeah,
artists don't always get a chance to express their deepest thoughts. Even with an interview,
yeah,
it's so based around maybe a song or, the album art or the concept of, but, I'm going to be able to really dive into these conversations with an artist as an artist, and have some cool conversations. I've already had a couple people on, some people struggling with addiction, some people like one of my dear friends who was in a murder trial. She came on and chat. So we talking, with my company, Prime Purpose Movement, we really are striving for better art, and healthier people will change the world. That's the vision. And so on top of all the music and the art, I'm trying to do a lot of things to get people healthier spiritually, mentally, physically. So it's kind of I'm doing all kinds of
Salute
things.
for that, man. I always see you pushing the positivity online and everything. You have just this like aura of positivity, at least from your online presence, and from just talking to you now, it seems like, you are somebody who pushes community and pushes just, acceptance and love and spreading that love to each other, which I think is so important. Again, one of the reasons that I'm doing this here, like you said, talking to different people allows people to open up like that, and really kind of pull the curtain back and show some real humanity that maybe doesn't always get expressed in the music itself, or as personal as music can get. A lot of people still have to be able to open up a little bit more than that, right? And I know I fell in love with like long form podcast interviews, just listening to podcasts over the years, doing blue collar jobs, man. Like, so it's been like, well, why am I not talking to all these artists that I kind of am texting with? And then like over the pandemic or whatever, it was like, well, I got time to, and we got the tech to do it, and everybody's kind of using the tech and getting set up to do Zoom, and everybody knows the ropes now or whatever. So it was like, all right, well, if people will talk, let's do it. So like, you mentioned you talked to a few people already. What's the schedule look like for the podcast? Like, are you constantly looking for new people to talk with? How are you booking people?
Yeah, and that's because for the first, I don't know, 10, 12, I was doing them solo, and then the only person who came through was my twin brother. Shout out BP. He made a couple appearances so I could test it out. My sister came on, my other sibling came on, and then I invited some close friends with some crazy stories to tell. But I book it I booked them. They come out weekly. And eventually I even got a couple that will come out. Like, I got a birthday podcast coming out later this week with my brother, so that'll be like a bonus episode.
Nice.
And then towards probably later in 2024, I hope to kind of double up and start releasing 2 podcasts a week. But even just you probably know, even just the one a week is a lot to keep up with.
It is.
So.
It is. A few of the weeks, like over the past couple months, I had other artists contact me and ask if they could get slots like coming up to talk about their recent thing. And I was like, sure, let's do it. But no, I wouldn't want to try to do 2 a week constantly as a regular thing. Like into 2024, I'm scheduling 1 a week, and yeah, it's enough, especially like with trying to chop clips and stuff, that's another good reason to be doing podcasts, I think, is like we're all supposed to be putting out like content and like have 60-second entertainment clips to post. And so it's like, well, what are we supposed to do? It can't always be like freestyling or like, your new verse or whatever. So I think, just having conversations, you get those moments, and it's a little bit more natural and organic if you, I don't know, aren't like sitting down in front of your camera to do it specifically, right? Some of the time.
Yeah, and even just to talk on the content, the podcast has been one of those things that's been a lifesaver for me, because I might drop quite a bit of music, but it's just like with the whole TikTok culture, I just don't like driving my music that way with making 60, 70 pieces of content for each song.
Yeah. Which is what they say you're supposed to do. Like that, yeah, you're not just pulling numbers out of a hat. I've seen advice like that talking about like promote the hell out of the song, and before you put a song out, make sure you have that type of promotional run lined up or whatever.
Oh, 100%. And I just like to try to be putting out something with a little bit more value than that. There's a lot of that. And, I'm just trying to do things a little bit different than everyone else is. And, take a little bit different of risk than other people are doing,
Yeah, definitely, man. Actually, one thing, speaking of like kind of TikTok and social media converting over and content and stuff like that, I noticed looking at your Spotify today, you've got it's like one of those verse challenges or whatever. Was that from TikTok?
Yeah.
And if you want, we can chop this afterward. There's only 4 people watching live right now, but give me the word and we'll cut this chunk out afterwards for the part that goes on after Atsic. But Can you do that? Is that supposed to be on Spotify? Like, or is it just one of these things where it's like it's under the radar and until you get big, nobody's going to care about it? Because I know a lot of artists do that, you know, with sample clearances and everything else, right?
Well, great question. Great question. Eric Kane, actually a homie of mine.
Okay.
And well, I guess the song's already out, so let's give the behind the scenes on why we did that. Actually, so he came up with a good idea to try to get people enticed. So we actually he brought the song over, and I was a big fan of the song originally when he dropped it, so he came over to the crib and we were chopping it up about some stuff. He liked the verse that I laid down on it, and then he's like, "Well, you know what? Let's try to get people more engaged with this. I'll run a challenge. You do, you duet the clips. Let's see if people will get hyped for it, and then we'll drop the song a week later or whatever the fuck." And so it was all kind of actually set up just to make it more of a story people could follow, and people did, and people loved it. People loved it.
Did he get a lot of response for the open verse challenge? Like, have you heard other rappers on that?
Nah. I think he may have gotten maybe a couple other people who sang something on it.
Because honestly, when I listened to it, dude, I was like, is this a fate? Like, have I heard this walking through Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, is this like a big?
Yeah, born and raised Edmontonian. Yeah, this is my and I don't know what it is with. I always have kind of ran with no crowd at all. Like, there's not, it's like I kind of have popped in and fit in kind of, I know everybody a little bit. Some people might know me. We've probably been on a show together if you're a rapper in Edmonton.
Right.
I'm not only playing in the rap shows, but it's like, especially with the way I kind of lend myself as an artist, it's like I can be performing at the rap show. I could go open for Tiger down the street, or I could be an accompanying act at the Jubilee.
Definitely super versatile. Some of your stuff has like big like gospel feel to it and is very soulful. A lot of R&B vibes throughout and everything too. So yeah, you could probably play a set to either of those crowds very well, for sure, man. I agree.
And so I think it's just because I kind of, it's this, and it served me well, especially as my artistic freedom. That's just who I am. I like variety. I'm inspired by variety. I'm interested in things that I struggle at. That's why I try so many new things with music, because that's the thing that drives me the most. But then I think what it also does, and it's kind of, catch-22, it's like, then I do, unlike other artists who say they hop the genres, it's like I kind of actually hop the genres, where it's like, oh, it's hard to put, is he a conscious rapper? He's singing about life and love in this one, but then he's rapping about bitches in the last track, know? So
yeah, for a minute there, like listening to your stuff, I was like, is this guy like Christian rap? Am I like, sometimes you got to stop and decipher and see like how gospel is this? Is this just gospel sounding or like, and whatever. I mean, like it's dope one way or the other, but I decided that it wasn't particularly Christian rap, listening to it or whatever. But there's definitely moments where you're like, okay, we're definitely like, motivational, uplifting messages or whatever. And like I was saying earlier, like spreading love and all that good vibe stuff, man. So like, yeah, it is a somewhat spiritual message, if not maybe like a particularly religious connected one, I would say.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's actually a pretty cool way to process it, absolutely. And with all that being said, I literally have that song called Sending Positive Vibes, it's the last song on the upcoming album Olympus. And then kind of to contrast that release, actually, I have a new song coming out on Friday called Dark Skies.
Okay,
and
dope.
And this song is much more, this song actually is about pursuing a passion. It's got a very R&B like hook, it kind of sounds like I'm singing about a chick, but really I'm singing about holding on to your dreams, and the verses are about how complicated life gets and how it's a struggle. It's like even the second verse is, It's hard to forgive these days, hard to just live these days. So I drink to forget these days. I live with regret most days. So I smoke till the sky turn dark, you know? So it's
Right.
like sometimes I'll lean into that, like, oh shit, life also kind of sucks too, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, like, you can't just pretend life is all roses or whatever, or you come off corny, right? Like, because people are out there living. Everybody's going through it at some point. So, yeah, to carry an uplifting message and do it with authenticity. I think you need that contrast, right?
Oh, that's a good point too.
You know, you need some of the low spots or whatever. But, dude, I wanted to talk to you about Olympus and like,
My
so it was,
favorite subject.
yeah, well, so it was Road to Olympus in like 2020, right? You dropped Road to Olympus in 2020.
Yeah, the mixtape. Yeah,
Okay, so
mixtape.
so well, I guess actually before we get into this, can I ask you like who's just been doing production? Like, do you have, because it sounds cohesive. It sounds like you either have a stable of guys that you go to, or like maybe there's somebody in house doing it, or you do it yourself. I don't know.
So I'm so glad that you said cohesive because that's the biggest thing that I fight for. Even with the dynamics of everything, you know, it still makes sense in the JusJrdn world somehow, you know.
Yeah.
Uh,
Dude, I
and
struggle to not say cohesive like 6 times a sentence sometimes during these conversations. So it has happened before, but I'm gonna keep the tally and we'll leave it there. But yes, cohesive sound for sure.
gee. And so I do handle I like to say I make music every way you can make music. You know, sometimes I'm flipping samples. I literally have a song on the album called "Flip the Soul Sample," and it's because I flipped a soul sample, and I was like, "This is a dope track." I do have another producer that I work with pretty heavily, even from my very first project, Life, Andrew Menzak. He's also the one. He's the one who produced "Sending Positive Vibes," and he's the one who produced the song "Come in Dark Skies."
Okay. Does he work with other artists?
He has worked with other artists in the past. Shout out Angelo, Gabe, or Graham, and then Sean Fiji, and then he's done some kind of he's done some interesting side projects as well, making some kind of how would you say, religious music for people.
Sure, sure. Like I said, man, I mean, power to people that want to make that music, whatever.
Yeah.
There's music for everybody out there. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So he primarily, I mean, he's a guitarist by scale. He went to McEwen for he went to school for recording, but from the guitar. So he works with some artists, but I'm basically the main dude he works with. He plays some of my live shows. If I do work with a band, he's always my guitar player. He's kind of like my right hand man in the music world.
Makes sense. So you guys came up close or whatever. Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense in my mind, like how, I don't know. I know so many people in the Edmonton community, and there's no crossover or whatever. But it makes sense if you have been working with one producer and you produce yourself, and yeah, can kind of come up in a pocket like that. Yeah, yeah.
And it's not to say that I don't work with the other peeps around either. Like, you know, NATO's mixed a couple of my tracks. NATO down, he's the G.
Hell yeah, shouts to NATO.
Oh, you know, he's the one who mixed my track "Good People." It's got a music video on YouTube. That one came out as the main single on a EP, but it's also one of the songs off of Olympus, the vinyl as well.
Right. So with Road to Olympus in 2020, were you intending it to be 3 years till Olympus, or like,
No.
what was the original plan, and how have things changed since then, man?
Yeah, because things got complicated just with life and
I imagined, yeah.
and a lot of it had to come down with the vinyl processing actually too. The wait times for the vinyls and the cost of the vinyls that were skyrocketing. Because right from the get-go, when I was making Olympus out the gates, my whole intention with that one was to put it on vinyl. And the decision to make it exclusively vinyl was one that came later. But the intent of it was always to have it on vinyl, so never to put it out until I was prepared to sell the 1,000 vinyls. That's always been what my goal with this specific project is.
The Nipsey Hussle strategy. Just
and that's my G. You couldn't have said. That's just what that was the intent when I came with this project of Olympus. And so when I was making Road to Olympus, it was these were straight up some of the tracks I was working on while I was making this album. And then they were just, some of them were getting unfinished. Some of them were just practice tracks. And so with Road to Olympus, I was like, you know what? I've done quite a bit of producing. I've done quite a bit of writing. I've done some collabs, but let's do a project where I do most of it. You know, I produced most of those songs on that. Most of it's me rapping, but there are quite a few features. And then Andrew actually also produced the song, The Light. We co-produced that one. That's how a lot of our tracks go, where he'll have an idea and then I'll expand, or I'll have an idea and he'll expand, you know, so that we real good with that.
Yeah, man.
So yeah.
Dude, that's so important, the chemistry between a producer and an MC to build the type of sound you're looking to build. I wanted to say cohesive again, but yeah, to build that sound throughout your career, right?
For sure, because there's artists like, say, like Post Malone. He always, every one of his projects are produced by the same dude, you know, and that just leads. And actually, me and Andrew were having this conversation a couple weeks ago. It's just like, it's cool to grow and do our own things independently, but then we always come back. We always come back, and then that relationship grows stronger, and working together grows stronger. And it's just like, I work on a lot of projects all at one time too. I got after the whole Olympus series, so Road to Olympus, Olympus 2.
Okay.
I got this other project coming out called Mr. J and the Heartbroken Homies. And it's like this, the whole idea behind that is sad dance party. So we're doing a whole different vibe with that project.
So is this just, you record an entire vault of music and then you're kind of separating it into what sounds good together, or did you set out to make these separate projects solo projects, you know, before it, and now I'll make these sad dancey songs? Or was it like you noticed that there were all these sad dancey songs, so it was like, well, that might as well be an album?
So the ideas, because I'm always creating, so even when Olympus has been done, mixed, mastered, ready to go since last August, you know, it's done. Olympus 1 is done. And then I did this darkness meditation for 3 days, fasted for 3 days in this room for 3 days. And I came out of it and I had some profound realizations just with myself. Some growth was happening. But while I was in that room, I was like, you know what? I don't think the story of Olympus that I'm trying to convey is done with that first project. And I have a few more things that I need to say before this Olympus era kind of comes to an end. And then that's where Olympus 2 comes from. Olympus 1, and I've said this in an interview before, Olympus 1 is about finding your divinity, you know, that Herculean story. You are that Jesus story, that you are man, but you are divine too, you know, and it's the climb to Olympus, you know, and it's like Olympus is the place of the gods, and it's like joining your place up there, being a man, but joining your place as something higher, and, you know, the journey of that.
Dude, I really love the idea of, like, you know, self-creation, and that, you know, God body, we can all be gods in our own right by creating or destroying, and, you know, create the atmosphere we want around us, all that. I like that philosophy a lot, man. Yeah.
And so that's what Olympus is. And then I kind of see the conclusion of Olympus being the mountaintop, but then I got into that dark room. And then I was like, because I do a lot of hard things, a lot of fasting, a lot of hard workouts, a lot of meditation things. It's just the thing that I need, you know?
One meal a day. I wanted to talk to you about some of those, and we can't just gloss over that you sat in a room not eating for 3 days in the dark, man. We got to talk about that a little bit. Like I dabble in meditation or whatever, but it's always been like 20 minutes a day, and I feel like I'm doing fairly well or whatever, you know.
And that is very well. 20 minutes a day.
Discipline, but as far as like 3 days in a dark room, that's a whole nother level, man. How do you even get into meditation at that level? What's the journey been like there?
Yeah, meditation actually. So this all ties in with Olympus, because I had a big kind of career failure a few years ago. Supposed to go on tour, things didn't work out. You know, I was dealing with a bunch of personal things, and I was shook from it, you know, just to say the least, and shook pretty hard, and I didn't know how to recover from it all. And I took kind of a break from everything. And it wasn't until I got into Greek philosophy and I started reading more, and I discovered Stoicism and the meditation, Marcus's meditations, and once I started dabbling in all that, I kind of got my feet on the ground, and then I started working out again and getting into meditation, and then I started to really expect, just like I do, I kind of dive into these things, and I really expanded into meditation. At one time, I was meditating Monday through Friday for an hour a day, and then Saturdays and Sundays I would go 2-3 hours at least, and just sit and meditate and try to connect and try to find that connection and calm down and deal with my issues and look at myself. And through the years, you know, all the different types of fasting that I do, it all grounds me, and it's all spiritual to me, you know. All of these tasks, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm a religious guy. I grew up Roman Catholic, you know, I grew up with that background. I don't follow that faith anymore. I don't follow any faith anymore, really. I just follow my belief systems and the values that I've developed through these hard practices, where it's like, oh no, discipline is self-sacrifice is something that I value. These are the things.
You convey that very well, because like I said earlier, I would have guessed something along those lines, that there seems to be some sort of gospel influence here going on, but yeah, maybe evolution beyond that.
Absolutely. And it's funny because, like, as much as I'm not a religious person, gospel music is something that I love with all my heart. One of my favorite Kanye albums is Sunday Service. You know, it felt like he made that project for me, you know?
Yeah, he didn't make it for me. I'll just say that. I was like, all right. I mean, like, these are jams, I guess, but like, dude, no, I couldn't do it. I listened a couple times through, but that was about it for that album, man.
And I get that. If you ain't a gospel lover, it's like, bro, this. Well,
and I could respect the production end of it. That was what I really listened to it and appreciated. Was like, this guy is a master where he can make gospel sound this appealing, you know. And this like mainstream flavored too. Like there was, you know, there's still drums and bass, and like it's still some of that stuff goes or whatever. It's just like,
oh yeah, dog.
Yeah, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
There's something for everybody out there.
Oh, absolutely. So it's like, you know, this is like spiritual connection, and I think it comes out. I mean, I talk about it in the music, but it's like, you know, and I think that's what's cool about the projects that I put out too, because I'm constantly working on music. I'm constantly working on projects. I am every day, just like any other discipline that I do. Practice and creation is part of my daily routine. You know, if I only got an hour, I'm in it for an hour. If I got 4 or 5 hours, great. If I got all day, even better. You know, but
that's my biggest tip to artists, is to do that. Make yourself do it every day. I read a book, like, you know, in my early 20s that told me to do that, and it, like, I think it was not the War of Art. No,
The Art of War.
no, not the Art of War. It's the flip of the Art of War. It's the flip of the Sun Tzu one. So it's the War of Art,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's by
Stephen
some.
Pressfield.
Yeah. There you go. That's his name. So, but that book talks about that, about how like, you know, you've got to apply yourself, and that's the difference between like an amateur and a professional or whatever. Is the amateur is going to wait for inspiration, and a professional is going to, you know, push themselves to do it every day until it's something that they've mastered to a point that they can just consistently do it when they need to. And yeah, so I forced myself to do that, you know, keep the pen sharp or whatever, and write for years on end or whatever. And yeah, it did get to a point where like now when I need to write a verse, you know, if I'm feeling the beat and everything, I'm writing a verse, you know, we can knock that out. Yeah. But I think it takes a lot of dedication and practice. And I think the meditation, like I was building those meditation practices at the same time. So like discipline goes a long way in artistry. I think the two of those things go hand in hand. Right. And then okay, am I right in thinking that Olympus is a project that you want to include with some sort of like training regime, like you're gonna personal train people or something? Can you talk about that? Because that goes hand in hand with the discipline or whatever, but it's an interesting concept. I don't know.
100%. I'm always trying, and actually, you know what, this is a great time to bring this up too. Over the last, I don't know, year, it has to be the last year at least, I'm always about, I'm like, how can I add more value to this project? I think this album's amazing. I think this album's worth $1 million. Obviously, I'm a little biased, you know.
Everybody should be their own biggest fan, man. Yeah.
You know, and so I've talked to my brother, to my friends, to artists, and I'm like, okay, what makes sense? Should I give away a free pair of socks with this vinyl? Should I give away a custom T-shirt with this? Should I, you know, I'm trying to think. Should I give away? At one time, I'm like, okay, what if I gave away? Because I'm making 1,000 copies. I'm like, what if everyone got like 0.001% of the company, you know? And it's like, not only it's a vinyl, but it's an investment opportunity.
See, this is the same struggle as all the independent musicians are trying to figure out, like, what do you package it with, you know? And people are doing the, like, you get it's a signed poster, but it's a signed monogrammed 30th anniversary insignia collector edition or whatever, like, you know, they put on a bunch of words and make it sound like you're like, oh, now I'm getting the sweet deluxe edition or whatever, right? But yeah, I don't know, a fitness plan is something I hadn't heard, but I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And in a world where, like, I don't know, kind of like being a social media like influencer, as like dirty of a word as that is to use and everybody hates it, it's like I can see how a fitness guy could also sell music to people. Is it going to be like motivation music? Like, even more so than your music normally is? I feel like
I wouldn't necessarily say that.
Okay.
I mean, you know,
because your stuff is normally motivational. I mean, like, you cover a spectrum, but a lot of the time the singles are like uplifting and like, you can do it, we can do it kind of messaging. But it made me wonder, like, okay, so will Olympus be like, you can do it, lift that fucking bar music, like, just straight up? Because I've heard music like that, like fucking what was it, Dead Prez went their separate ways, and I think it was M1 put out an entire album of, like, you know, crank out the push-ups and I'll fucking count it down in a rap for you music. And it was kind of dope. I mean, it can be done. Yeah.
So yeah, no, nothing like that.
You know,
it's really like they're just independent of each other. It's more about the vision of, you know, like my vision of better art and healthier people. Yeah. And I was like, well, I have the better art part. What can I do to make the people healthier? I could literally train them. You know, I could literally be like, hey, if you buy this, I will give you some guidance for an entire month, you know, to help you become healthier. And, you know, I started telling that to people because people were coming up with like, oh yeah, the socks idea, that's cool. The poster, that's cool, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I know these aren't unique. I'm trying to think of something that's different than what everyone else is doing. And then I came up with this idea and people were like, you know what? That's weird, but somehow this works. And I was like, bet, let's go, let's run with it, let's see what happens.
What's the response? Are people down? Like, do you work day to day as a personal trainer too? That's the next question, I guess.
So great question. See, this is so funny. This is a point I like to bring up because a friend of mine, we were talking on the phone one night real late, and she's like, I see you on social media all the time. I know what you're doing, but I never know what you're doing. You know, it's like you always, and I was like,
that's the thing about social media. Yeah. You see people, but you only get a certain percentage of it. That's why I like talks like this, because I get to be like, hey, I saw that thing. What about that thing that you posted? Can we talk about that?
Yeah. And so I'm a certified personal trainer, and I own a gym. I co-own a gym in Edmonton called Free Fitness.
Okay.
I'm no longer an operating partner there, and I don't personal train day to day. I do train a handful of people online doing what I'm pretty much offering. So I tip people usually usually pay me $300 for the program, but I'm including all that with the album. And that's like, I'm really just using it as a way to try to get people to hop on the fitness train that would buy the music. You know, it's just like, hey, I know you're a fan of mine. Let's get you moving or grooving or whatever you need to be doing. And so the response has been interesting because a lot of people have messaged me very confused about it. But then, and I get it. It's like, wait, what? You're doing a vinyl record with a free workout program? Is that right? And it's like, yeah, that's 100% right. It's like, I know it sounds odd, but you got it 100%. You're like, you're going to train me for a month? It's like, yeah, I am. They're like, this is kind of dope.
So like online training program, like what's it actually going to look like? You're going to actually meet these people at the gym if that's what they want to do, or like what is the plan here, man?
To train with me one-on-one is pretty expensive.
I would imagine. Sure. Yeah. That's a lot of time. I was like 1,000 albums. Like, how are we doing this? Okay. So
yeah. So it's all online. It's more of a coaching guidance thing, you know. It's some people, even I train now, it's stretching routines. It's maybe it's like, okay, I have dumbbells at my house. I have no other equipment. Can you make me a 3-day routine? And then I just need someone. A lot of what I do is just be like, did you fucking do what we said we were going to do this week?
Yeah. And accountability, right?
That's what most people need. Most people know the very basics of what they need to be doing every day, you know? And yeah, maybe a little bit more instruction. I teach people how to not hurt themselves.
Yeah, correct forms or whatever. Sure, yeah. 100%. It's nice to have somebody check your form sometimes or whatever too.
100%. Because it's like, you know, the thing is it's not just for people at home. It's for, I have other people that go to the gym that are advanced lifters, you know, that I'm making pretty intense workout programs for. And then, you know, mom who just had her 3rd child, just trying to get moving again at home. I also make programs for that. It's you know, my background in training has been 10 years of personal training. Right. You know, I've trained thousands of people. One of the biggest things that I do now, fitness related wise, is I run boot camps for schools. So I'll go in, and the whole thing is, it's like a performance to me, you know. I get the same thing off of running a boot camp as I do from running a concert, you know, except it's just a different thing that I'm getting back. Is like, especially running these boot camps for elementary schools and stuff, is getting kids excited to move, you know. It's like, oh yeah, man, I could do more push-ups than he can do now. And do
you use music as a component in it?
That I only do for the adult boot camps, because with the kids boot camps, it actually becomes too much of a distraction.
Sure, yeah, right. Kids have a lot of energy or whatever, yeah.
It's hard to keep them focused already.
Yeah. But you have incorporated music into some fitness programs already, like? Oh,
absolutely. And I actually, and even on if it doesn't happen on Olympus 2, it might happen on Mr. J and the Heartbroken Homies, where I'm even trying to incorporate kind of that line of guided meditation into a track as well. And but without making it just guided meditation, it's been a much more challenging to do than I thought without it coming out cheesy, you
Yeah.
know?
Are you're gonna try to like actually rhyme it and like
I'm trying to find the middle ground where it's not a rap song, it's not
yeah.
a spoken word, and it does flow kind of like a guided meditation.
I feel like there's a line there that could be walked, but yeah, it'll be a tough one to find, a challenging one to find. I mean, yeah, cool, man. That could be dope, and I feel like there could be an audience for it too, right? Yeah, might as well, dude. I don't know. RZA just produced actually like an album of guided meditations. He's not rhyming them or whatever, but yeah, maybe check those out. Maybe that'd be some
Oh, that's
inspiration
sick.
for you. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
hell yeah, man. So I've asked you a lot of questions. I wanted to get into some that are questions I ask a lot of different people that I just like hearing opinions on. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so like, how important is a good stage show? This one's pretty unanimous, but I just like hearing people say it.
Man, and I think it's the most important thing. Um, it's like and actually, even to just add on to how important it is right now in right today, how important it is. I only believe that with the growth of technology, that the live show is really what's going to separate an artist that has real impact in society to an artist that's just stock music that's around.
Mm,
And because people, I think, and we see it a lot with stand-up comedy. That's why I say this. People love the art form of stand-up comedy right now because it's raw, it's real, it's authentic, and it's low-key.
yeah.
We do get these crazy shows, Beyonce, Taylor Swift, these
But you've also got Kevin Hart selling out stadiums too, or whatever, right? Yeah, I think
100%
I've always thought hip hop and comedy have a lot of parallels between, especially MCs and stand up comedians. I think, one person on stage and a crowd in front of them is the formula there. And I mean, sometimes you get the DJ or a hype man or whatever else, but yeah, it's ultimately they're looking at one guy with a microphone most of the time.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so I believe there's going to be something powerful to say with hip hop if the artist can properly, showcase that, present the art properly live.
yeah, yeah, definitely. How important is getting grants?
Oh, this is a good one. Especially, especially right now. I'm actually working with the Edmonton Arts Council
Beautiful.
as a grant assessor.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. So
yeah,
you're signing off on people who apply for them in Edmonton.
yeah. Right now, I am.
So can we talk about that a little bit? My understanding of it is both Edmonton and Calgary in Alberta have north and south divisions or something, right?
Different grant funding bodies completely. So there's the Edmonton Arts Council, and then there's the Calgary Art Council, and
Okay.
then we have Alberta Foundation of the Arts,
Okay.
which is the overlapping provincial one.
So at some point, I gained the understanding, or I got the idea that first it would have to get past like a jury of 12 people or something like that at the Edmonton level, and then it goes to a provincial level where it goes to a jury of 12 people. I might be thinking of like factor grants or some other grant stream.
Because this one, it gets first. So for the Edmonton Arts Council, it's going to be the simplest of the foundations. The local levels are always the simplest of the ones, but it does. And so this is, I can't say too much about the other assessors in my grant in the thing, or obviously the grants that I'm assessing right now,
Sure.
or the amount of money that I'm fixed at. But what I can say is, so what happens is it's filtered by the people who are employed by the Edmonton Arts Council.
Okay.
And I must say, after meeting everybody, I don't think the Edmonton Arts Council could be in better hands right now. The people there running it are the most inclusive, the most. I can't believe my experience there, actually. And this is really the first time I've actually got to talk about it because I'm in it right now,
Good. Yeah. Yeah.
And so then there's a panel of artists of different of different practices. No one else depending upon how many grants there are, from my understanding, is how large the group is.
Okay.
So some of the other groups have less people, some of the other ones have more people than we have. But there's a handful of artists, and you get to assess the grant on your own. So you go through all of the grants on your own in your own time, a couple of weeks beforehand.
Yeah.
One by one, you assess and then you meet, and in the group, you go one by one through all of the grants, and you all talk about it. And so it's been incredibly, I can't believe how fair it is. You know, it's like I can't think of a more fair system than a diverse group of artists of different ages, skill sets, practices.
Yeah. Sounds very democratic or whatever. That whatever deserves it probably comes out on top.
100%.
I guess. No, I'm not going to ask that question. You're currently sitting on the board. Respect to you and the Edmonton Arts Council. Yeah, I think they've helped a lot of people, and they're going to continue to help a lot of people. But yeah, man, I always like to ask people about grants, because you get a wide variety of opinions from artists who are doing it independently. Some who rely on it so heavily, you know, that they don't work jobs, and then some who are like so blue collar that they're like, what the fuck do I need a grant for? I operate a crane, you know, or whatever. Like, so yeah, it's both sides of that spectrum. But
sorry.
Yeah, no, go in. Yeah.
So just to answer the whole thing on grants, I think they're valuable. I think you should try for them, because you live in Canada, and no other country in the world has as much funding for the arts as that.
Yeah.
Say what you will about what the government. We're the only government in the world that invests as much money as they do for the arts community on the national scale. So that being said, like, you know, they're
Tap
straight
in.
up. Tap
Might
in.
as well. Yeah.
Don't rely on it, you know. I try to apply for as many as I can, but that's not what's funding the project. You know, it's like I'm a grind there, and if I get this little cherry on top, fuck it. You know?
Yeah, man. Thanks for looping back. I interrupted, and we got sidetracked talking about just your role in the grant committee or whatever. But that was a good answer, man. How important is having a hype man on stage when you're performing? I guess this kind of ties in with the whole how good is the stage show or whatever aspect. But
that's a great question, dog. That's a great fucking question, because I'm so high energy myself. I'm so hyped myself that I've had hype mans in the past, and it seems like they ain't doing anything because they're not as hype. They're not on the same level.
Right.
However, the best hype man I ever had was in Calgary, and I have no idea what this DJ's name was. And it was one of the first times I was performing this song, so I knew he didn't know the song at all, you know? And the way this dude would cut the beat and get the crowd involved and chant the chorus, I was like, it changed my
hold up.
perspective.
So he was the DJ, but he also was mic'd up, because I've talked to different DJs about this, and I don't know if you're familiar with producer in Winnipeg, Frost Gamble, but I told him in our interview, I was like, no, I love it when the DJ has a microphone and is going to hype me. And then like a month after that, he was at the Anthony Cannon release show. They're putting out an album, and I see him back there with his sampler, and he's got the microphone, because he told me he was an MC to begin with. And I was like, dude, if you're an MC to begin with and you know the songs, yeah, have a microphone. Like, everybody loves, as long as the vibe is right and you know the songs and you're there to add energy, that's beautiful. But shouts to DJs who also are hype men.
Yes. So I think there's a time and a place, and especially because I'm in a diverse. It's like, you know, at the Jubilee, I don't know if I need someone coming. You know. Yeah,
it depends on the setting too, for sure. Yeah, but for high energy, it can help sometimes. But if you bring a lot of energy yourself, it's definitely not always needed. I've definitely heard a lot of guys say, like, you know, they feel like their stage shows at a place where unless it was like their best homie or something
Yeah,
that really is
yeah.
like out there to just have fun and add to the show. Yeah, they'd rather not.
Because I think if it can, I think just like anything, if it can be incorporated correctly,
Yeah.
everything has a pro and a con. But if you're gonna use it and you're gonna use it well, fuck yeah, it's sick.
Hell yeah, man. How important is making music that fits the current trends?
Great question. You come with some bangers, bro.
You know, it's like kind of a one that puts artists on the spot, because sometimes listening to people's music, I'm like, is this guy just? And I'm not talking about you right now, but just I listen to 5 hours worth of independent hip hop every week. Like, if it's coming out, I'm listening to it. So like sometimes I'm like, how hard are we trying to make the like radio friendly hit with this one? You know, and it sounds like they sat down to write it. If you sit down and write a song and it happens to be something that sounds real catchy, I'm not mad at it, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just sounds forced or whatever from certain artists or whatever. So yeah, it's a good question that I like asking people. Like, yeah.
And yeah, because it's crazy, especially having homies that are signed to labels and stuff now. You know, it's like I got the homies in the label game, I got the homies in the independent game, and so it's cool to get the perspectives and be in the rooms while they're making the art, and being lucky enough for these people to trust me enough to answer some of my questions that I have.
Right.
And I think where my opinion comes in now, it all depends on what the goal of the artist is. You know, if the goal of the artist is to make pop hits, and that's what you should do. You should go in there and you should try to sound like what everything is sounding like right now, because that's not an easy task to do either.
Right.
You know,
no, appealing to everybody is notoriously difficult, right? Like there's a cliche about it. You can't please everybody. Like, but that's kind of if you want to be that lane, that's what you're trying to do, is like make the song that the most people are going to like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just where it is. Where I am as an artist, you know, I just don't care what other things sound like. You know, I'm not making it to be, and that's again, and this is why Olympus is coming out only on vinyl.
Yeah.
Because I was like, man, I don't even think this is meant for the streaming. It's meant for people that are gonna take this record, put it on their freaking vinyl recording, and listen to this project. You know, it's like I invested into this, and I'm gonna listen to this, and I paid for this, so I'm probably gonna listen to it more than once and give it a second chance and sit with this project for a little, you know.
Right.
It's not
people who like to listen to full albums, right? Yeah, man. I mean, I think the place of a full album has almost disappeared in society because of the streaming platforms and how constantly people are pushing singles out, right? It's easy to just listen to a mix of I listen to a 5-hour mix and it's mostly singles every week, right? And I mean, some of them are from albums, but for me, like, you know, if I'm going to the gym, or if I'm like gonna drive to Calgary and it's gonna be 2 hours in the car or something, I either want to listen to like a podcast, or I want to listen to something that's got a start and a finish. And so like a lot of the time I will play an entire album all the way through. And I think that's the crowd that might buy vinyls or whatever. But let me segue to asking another how important is, because this one is, I get wildly different answers from different artists, and I feel like you're going to give me a different answer than other kind of younger guys have. Like all the old heads I talk to, and I don't mean to hate on anybody calling them old heads. I call myself an old head sometimes or whatever, right? But people who've been around since like DJs spun vinyl, you know what I mean? Like since that was what was happening at the club every Friday.
That's a good kind of cutoff kind of era, you know?
Yeah, right. And I mean, it's a little fuzzy, but like we kind of know, right? And like those people will tell you vinyl is very important, but how important is pressing vinyl? Some of the younger guys I've talked to, or people in other lanes, are like, I don't think my crowd wants vinyl. Yeah.
Great, man. You come with the bangers.
I mean, we're almost 50 episodes deep, man. I'm just shifting down, trying to get better and better at this, man. But I appreciate it. Thank you, dude.
You're killing it, bro. I would say, and this is coming from someone who is currently pressing vinyls. You know, this is someone whose whole campaign for his album right now is based strictly on vinyl records.
Yeah.
I would say they're not important at all. You know, it is as popular as they are. It's still niche, and it still is dwarfed by fucking the streaming. You know, it's just
It's dwarf popularity wise, but financially, right? Financially, like you were saying earlier, if you can sell 1,000 vinyl, you're doing a lot better than if you get 20,000 streams, right? Like
hundred,
you can put up 7 million fucking streams, and it's like, you'll make a couple grand off it, but like it takes big stream numbers to amount to anything to pay the light bill, right? So
100%. And you may, and yeah, that's, I mean, that's one of the biggest reasons that I'm doing it, you know. Just the Nipsey Hustle strategy, 100%. But what I would say, especially with the vinyl, especially what's different between the vinyl and say a CD, is the cost to play. You know, the cost to play the vinyl game is much higher for that return, unless you're going to try to be like, like myself and charge for $75 for the record.
right.
But it's like most of my homies I know, you know are putting vinyl records out for $30, $35, $40. And it's like, man,
Barely turning any profit on that, especially with shipping or whatever, right?
100%, you're making no money out of that,
Yeah.
And so, especially when it comes to the business side of things, I'm not trying to be the most affordable. I'm trying to be the most valuable,
Well, and then the question also that people are kicking around is like, so you got to have some merch, right? Like everybody relies on merch as some source of income because the streaming isn't going to do it. So the streaming will get the music out to people, but then if you want to have some type of income off the music, you've got to have a subscription plan or merch of some type. So the people who do say they don't, have vinyl definitely have other types of merch and emphasize like you got to have something to sell. So it becomes a question of like, do you do t-shirts? Do you do, what is it, right? But probably all of it would be the best play.
Yeah,
if everybody had a lottery,
Yeah, because I'm always about even making innovative thing. One of my best selling merch items that I had was do I have any right here? Is I made this candle. I did this R&B track with 1201. The track's called 1201.
Right. Yeah, I heard that one actually earlier today, man. That's another one that I was like, this is a jam. Like, is this a remix of a classic R&B song? Like, well, yeah, it took me a second to think, like, do I know this song?
And that one's half produced by somebody else and then half produced by me. And then we got a bunch of instrumentalists to come in. There's real drums on the half end. There's programmed drums at the beginning end, guitars, there's keys, there's there's all kinds of shit with that one. But for the promo, I did a candle, because it was an R&B thing.
Sure.
I was like, oh, this
matches the vibe. Yeah.
100%. And those candles, I mean, I made them by hand. I learned how to make candles. I fucking poured them
like
by
with
hand.
the Michaels kit or what? My wife's pointed the Michaels kit out to me.
I went on Amazon. I bought wax in bulk, bro.
Nice, man. Nice.
One of my best selling items, one of my best selling merch items was the One Love hoodie, and it's just a white hoodie. There's a bunch of my kind of, with every kind of project, I come up with kind of like a little catchphrase. For life, it was, I want to be great. What do you want to be? And then the whole Olympus thing is more love, more success, So I had a more love hoodie. I had a more success one, but I had this dude draw it up and it became too gaudy, it was like, nah, people ain't gonna like
success. Was a bunch of money signs and stuff.
There's like Bitcoin on it, and I was like, this is getting too fine.
It was before the Bitcoin bubble broke. Yeah. Don't try to push the finance pro rap on us. Here we go. How about that kind of transitions into how important is an MC's fashion?
Oh, that's a damn, bro. Because
There's a lot of ways to come at any of these questions, man. Yeah.
There's so many, because again, it has to do with the artist. It's like I would actually consider it good fashion if your whole thing is just like not to fucking diss Quake Matthews, but Quake Matthews' whole thing is that it's low key. You know, he shows up to awards in sweatsuits.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, I'm like, bruh, that's sick as fuck, you know? Now, if Jay-Z shows up in a fucking sweatsuit to the ground, well, I don't know. Kendrick Lamar did it, actually. And again, it was like...
I mean, Eminem made a career doing it, didn't he? Like, that guy's never been out of anything but a sweatsuit, I think. Like, yeah.
So, you know, I don't think it's necessary. It really ties into the artistry and the authenticity. However, I love when it can be incorporated correctly. An artist that can do that at a high level and incorporate some dope fashion into it. As a consumer of the culture, I think it's top tier. And you know, for the last few years, I've been performing in togas, you know, so my fashion's kind of limited.
Dude, actually, speaking of performing in togas, so you sent over some promo shots earlier today. I'll try to put this promo shot on the screen here in the After Effects or whatever, but there was one of you sitting there in a loincloth, and my wife saw it and goes, "Oh, he's trying to steal everybody's women." And I was like, he's trying to steal everybody's women as he swings by on a fucking vine. Like... So I wanted to know, like, what was the thought process behind doing a photo shoot in the loincloth, man?
So that was so funny. That was actually part of a series of photos that I did for this one photographer. It came out in some publication and whatever the fuck. The whole idea was, it was this like, oh, this dude's like fucking a warrior. It came out right after my song Warrior dropped. And it's like, oh, this one photographer took it and he's like, yeah, man. He's like, I really want to represent you as this kind of like warrior thing. So we ended up doing this whole series of fucking you know,
I thought like, okay, personal trainer, like, you know, he's showing off the physique. All right, sure, there we go. Yeah, definitely had a good laugh when we saw that one.
I like, you know, with those four or five photos or whatever I sent you, I try to always make it as diverse as possible to be like, yo, what's the mood you're going
choose
for?
Which fits. Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate it, man. I don't mean to clown on you or whatever.
No, I think that's fucking hilarious,
yeah,
bro.
Dude. And I mean, if that's the promo shot, I mean, we'll show it to the people. That's why you take promo shots. Can I ask you a couple more of these how important questions? How important is a local reputation?
Oof.
I think as things go more and more digital, it gets less and less important, but I don't know the right answer to any of these questions personally.
Yeah, you know, because I think it all comes down to strategy, you know, and it all comes down to what are you trying to do. It's dope. It's dope to have a home base. I think that's supportive. If you can, but I also understand that, especially talking to artists that make maybe different styles of music in places where that kind of music isn't popular, it's hard to have a reputation, but it doesn't mean that they're not popular, you know?
Yeah.
And so you can develop a whole career and then still not sell out a goddamn 50-person room in your hometown.
Yeah.
You know, which is...
Well, and Edmonton is a place where that might be just the way it is, right? Like Canada in general is so sparsely populated that, like, you know, I've seen people talking about, like, if you're a boom bap artist, for instance, America just has millions more people who are interested in listening to boom bap than there are in Canada. And likewise for any lane that you're in, right? So yeah, man, it's a tough one. I feel like in Canada, like, everybody wants to have the local reputation, and it's dope to be able to sell out shows when you go do them, but I don't know. I feel like you also need to tap in and get a wider market somehow, right? Like you got to hit that bigger audience. Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially being, it's just, why don't even American artists tour across Canada? Because it's that expensive.
Yeah.
It's that expensive. And is it really worth it? A lot of the biggest artists of all time are like, nah,
Yeah. Well, and I mean, when you go down, either of the coasts of America, it's like you can hit a city with 10 million people every 2 hours, right? Like, and there's smaller cities with millions of people between all of them. So like you could really do so many shows and just book an entire tour, 2-3 states, and compared to like get in front of that many people in Canada, you'd have to go back and forth across the country 3 times. Like, so I guess that's why you do get artists who are doing that, though. You do get the like Mad Child who's in, well, I mean, not anymore, but was in Edmonton every second month, Like, you get guys doing that grind back and forth. Yeah, man. Have you done tours? Have you ever been out on the road like that?
No, the only one that I was supposed to do was in Europe, and some things fucked up, and I didn't end up going. I guess that's not true. I did the closest thing I've ever done to touring was I did a promotional tour that was sponsored by Steam Whistle, but it was only kind of through. It was like it was no
like Steam Whistle beer we're talking about.
Yeah, bro. They gave me so much beer, bro.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds like a good sponsorship to have as far as sponsorships go.
Yeah. Shit. And so I just went to basically colleges and talk to the DJs and play music and drink beer with people.
The only fucking sponsorship deals that I get offered are from like shavemyballs.com. It's like, what the fuck is this? Can I ask you, how important is a manager? This is the last one of these how important questions. How important is having a manager?
To some people, it is absolutely vital. To some artists, it's absolutely vital for them to have a manager. And I've seen that now. And I've seen artists who should have management that don't, and they struggle because of that. But I also see artists that don't need a manager and have a manager, and it's preventing the flow of what that relationship is supposed to mean. And in the world of music, everybody's jobs are kind of in the gray area. What is even a producer in music? What is a beat maker in music, and how is that different than the producer? All these, and then we get into agents and managers, and what are these people doing? And so I've seen some people, and it's just like anything. It's like, if you can find someone you mesh with and that relationship is something solid and can grow, that's beautiful. And it's going to be valuable to everyone. It's that whole idea of 1 and 1 should equal 3. It's like, not only should you guys be good, you guys should be better than you were independently.
I really like what you said there, bro, about like some people needing it and some people not needing it. Because I've heard other people say that, but they're talking about like, it was like, if you're not making money, don't bother with a manager, which is an opinion I've heard. But I like what you said about like, if some people just can't handle all those different things, right? There are some artists who are just not going to be able to handle the business side of it, and they definitely should have a manager. That's a great point to make, man. I really like that. And like, then there's artists who don't need a manager either, because if you answer the phone when it dings in your pocket, you book fly-in formation for January, February, the same night that I posted on Instagram. Yeah. And if your manager answers and says, I'll get back to you after the weekend, you're one of the 5 people whose managers I told, sorry, I booked them all. I'll get back at you, So, sometimes management can be good, but you got to make sure your manager is on point. And nobody's going to push as hard as you're going to push yourself. That's...
But sometimes somebody will.
I guess maybe there's some artists who don't push themselves that hard. Maybe they're like, I'm not going to do it. So yeah, if that's
Because I would even as an example, Phineas and Billie Eilish. Billie Eilish credits Phineas very. I know it's kind of a producer relationship.
Okay, I was just gonna ask: is this a
Yeah.
producer, a manager? Yeah, I know Billie Eilish, sure,
Oh,
but yeah.
Phineas is her older brother who produces most of her music, actually.
Okay, didn't know that. Cool.
Oh yeah, super talented artist. This guy, super talented. And Billie Eilish really credits him with being like, "Hey, let's go write the songs.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go sing the song."
put it
Like
together. Yeah,
some people really need that push. They're an insane talent.
it's like they say Diddy's like that. Biggie could bar up just forever and ever, but Diddy came in and was like, no, you need to chop these down and do verse, chorus, verse, and this is how you make something that'll make us money. Yeah.
I say most of the time the artist is the driving factor, but the off chance, there are the exceptions where someone else is actually driving the boat.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, man. I like to ask everybody for a tip. You got a few more minutes here? Like we're a little bit over the hour, but okay.
That's okay, bro. That's no problem.
So tips for people who are coming up or other artists watching or listening. How about tips for staying inspired? Let's go with that one. That's one I've been asking people lately.
That's another great one. The biggest thing I can say to keep inspired, to stay inspired, is to keep learning. If you are lacking inspiration, it's because you're lacking some sort of direction. And the best way to get inspiration is to keep learning. And whether that's, and this is where personally I will even take the lessons learned outside of music to come back and be inspired by music and this is why I dive into health so much and meditation so much. It's like I'm taking those things to help the inspiration at all times. It's like another cool, there's an author, he wrote the Daily Stoic, Ryan Holiday, and he has a quote. I don't know if it's his direct quote or if he's quoting somebody, and it's, if you want to be an interesting artist, you have to live an interesting life. And I think that's another thing. It's like if you go out and you do things, that's how you're going to keep getting inspiration. If you go out and get your heart broken, for instance, you got more shit to write about. Yeah. You go out and you have a fun time with the homies, you have something to write about. It doesn't have to be these grand gestures of fucking, okay, I'm going to go sit in darkness for 3 days, but you can find, there's lots of inspiration, I'm telling you, there too, So it's like, I think it's just the idea of constantly learning and constantly doing things. If you do those two things, you're never going to run out of inspiration.
Yeah, perfect, man. Beautiful. This one I ask everybody. Can you describe the Edmonton hip hop scene? Well, I ask people for their local hip hop scene, but can you describe the Edmonton hip hop scene?
The Edmonton hip hop scene, man, there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of people doing a lot of really cool things. There's a lot of cool sounds that I get inspired by. I
don't know if it's just because I'm most tapped into Edmonton or not, but I feel like there's a lot of talent there, like a disproportionate amount of talent.
And I can't say enough good. Edmonton gets shit on a lot, especially by Edmontonians.
Yeah, nobody likes living there. It's like, fuck this winter, fuck my work camp job, all of it. Yeah.
But I love the scene. I think one of the things that the Edmonton hip hop scene struggles with the most is how divided it is. There is a lot of pockets of really dope MCs and I feel like there's a lot of people trying to put it together, and I feel like a lot of people have been trying to put it together for a long time as well.
Yeah.
And it's just it's like to go on a grander scale like Nashville, where things seem so unified, and there's just like some sort of disconnect here that I think is hindering the scene. But there's a lot of people looking into it because there's so much talent here. There is so much talent here.
Yeah, like you said, man, I hear a lot of music coming out of Edmonton that inspires me, all across the country, really. But yeah, Edmonton especially.
That's what we like to hear, bro.
Hell yeah, man. I mean, and I was up there for the thing is, like, I don't know if it's just because I know a lot of people from Edmonton, so I'm extra tapped into the city. There might be this many dope motherfuckers in Saskatoon or Winnipeg or Montreal or whatever.
Saskatoon is where you went first. Eh?
There might be out there, man. Like, I know 5 guys in each of those cities who are dope, but like in Edmonton, I know like 40, and who are all like legit dope in different ways. There's a lot of different styles but I mean, it might just be because I was there for 15 years or whatever, but yeah, one way or the other. I intend to find out by just like continuing to do After the Smoke is Clear and continuing to ask this next question, which I ask everybody. Can you tell me about some artists from your scene who I should be up on, who I might not be up on? It's extra difficult for guys in Edmonton, and you kind of already have because you mentioned your producer. You should shout him again because I forget his name. But
Andrew Menzak.
Andrew Menzak, yeah.
Andrew Menzak. So one of the homies I know that is just grinding, Junior Rhodes. Are you familiar with him?
Just recently. I actually hit follow probably earlier this month on him. Yeah.
Let's go. He's one of the, I used to put him up on some shows. He came in, especially when I was dropping my first project. He came through and he would, open and spit some more bars and stuff. So we always been linked in the scene, and he's grown so much and he's doing such fun and exciting things. I think he's just about to drop a music video, Palm Trees. I just think I saw the trailer for that. That one's pretty cool. Dope. I also got to shout out an old homie of mine that I know is hustling. He kind of raps, sings. Graham is his name. He's been on some of my older songs as Angelo Gabe. It's super dope.
Just Gram, or how do we spell Graham? How am I ever going to find that guy? You got to ask him how he intends that anybody's ever going to find him on Google. Some people's names are impossible to Google.
Oh man, and it's like dot gr4m or something.
Okay, I've seen that around. I was going to ask if the A was a 4 because I've seen that. Yeah, okay.
And so he's still putting out some dope tracks, and there's some people that kind of border on the hip hop R&B stuff. There's a dude putting out some really cool visuals and stuff. I know it's maybe not 100% hip hop, but his name is Conch. He's really doing some cool things. He kind of produces.
He's an engineer at Resonate, is he not?
That's it, man. Super impressed with some of the stuff. I
talked to CX to the World a couple weeks ago, and Conch had engineered his newest project, IRL, up there at Resonate. Yeah.
This guy, he's doing a lot of stuff, and he does get a lot. Don't get me wrong. He gets some love, but man, he's really. I've been on some tracks that he's produced. I haven't, that I just featured on. We've never worked together, but I got a lot of love and respect for what he's doing. I see what he's doing with some of the artists in the scene and stuff, and I guess to shout out somebody else who's kind of in that R&B, hip hoppy space, especially the modern R&B. It's so hard to not say it's hip. You know what I'm saying? Kiki Ireland. Okay. She is super dope too.
That's a name I don't recognize, but I'll have to check out. Because even on Atzik, I do some R&B kind of like lover raps episodes. You know, it takes a while for me to find an hour worth of them to put together. But yeah, there are a few of them.
Of course, and there's so many. Who else can I even say that's coming to mind that you wouldn't know, other than...
shouts to people I do know, too. Like I said, Edmonton, I know a lot of artists there. Shouts to anybody you want to, man.
There's so many... I'm just blanking out.
You got a few there, man. That's pretty good, honestly.
All right. We'll leave... Because, oh, man, there's so many. And just to say, there's so many good... in the city, instrumentalists. There's so many good engineers. There are so many good people who do sound here. There's really a developed scene here,
Hell yeah. I do know. Any plans for shows or tours coming up that we can plug? Tell people to come out and see them.
No, I got a lot of the shows that I've been doing have been corporate shows, kind of on the down low.
Like what are we talking? Corporate shows like bank parties and stuff? You're like DJing, or how to
the
how do
last
those come
one I
around?
did was for there's like a cannabis club here, so I kind of go in and perform
Okay.
out there. But there was like a big like Aurora thing. They were doing like their company party. So
That sounds cooler than what I was thinking. I was thinking like I know DJs who do like, the wedding gigs or the like Christmas party, like staff party gigs or whatever, which like could probably be lit or whatever at a staff party. But
oh no, this one was literally, dog. They gave me this goodie bag. The goodie bag they gave me to after performing, there was so much goodness in there, bro. I was
beautiful.
like, yo, this is what's up.
So
my
actually, that's sorry for connoisseurs out there, man. I talked to the Dirty Sample. Every time I talk to him, he runs a weed store in Calgary, and I always ask him like, what's the good right now, man? Like, what's the new brand that people should be out on? So what was in that bag, man? What impressed you?
Oh man, they had these
I mean, if you don't mind talking about weed on podcast or whatever. Yeah.
Oh dog, that's my other love, bro.
Right on.
Yeah. So it was with Aurora, and actually they were launching this new the new brand underneath Aurora, and it's called Tasty.
Okay.
And honestly, the joints, and what they also were doing there was I was a little late to the party, but they were explaining it to me after. They had straws and cups everywhere, like big fucking like boba tea fucking.
Okay.
And so I guess the whole
just in cups with no lids, just a straw with a.
Yeah, like just a plastic cup. And so I guess there's this whole new thing going on where they just there's this machine that just puffs a bunch of fucking smoke into these cups, and you just sit there and you fucking sip on it, and it's
what's kind of a trip, man? Okay, so we used to keep just stolen A&W mugs, the classic stolen A&W mug, in the freezer, and then that it's cold, right? So smoke that hits it stays cold, so you do a blade into it. Back in the day when blades were around before dabs and all the current extracts and the ease of all that, it was like if you had hash, you had to do that. But I remember doing basically what you were just describing, except in an icy cold cup. And then you just like, we didn't have straws for it. You just like tip it back and take a hoot from it or whatever, kind of. But it worked out, right? Like you could just pour the smoke out of it because it was cold. But
yeah. Look at that full circle, bro.
There you go, man. Yeah. Shit. It all comes back to those blades I used to do. Shit. I'm sorry if I'm scaring the children, but no. Dude. What's the best way for people to support you, man? Or for that matter, to support any artists in 2023? That's a question I like to ask people.
Man, honestly, buy whatever the artist is selling. Right now, the easiest way to support me is to straight up go on the website, go buy the vinyl record. But I'll say it and I've been saying it a lot lately because I've kind of ridden the wave of I've had tens of thousands of people listening every month. And then it drops down to a couple hundred. I ride the waves. So
and that happens organically.
And it happens organically.
Okay. I believe it because you told me, but otherwise, when I see numbers start fluctuating like that, I'm like, something fishy is going on here. But no, I believe
sometimes
you.
Things get on. Sometimes things get on playlists. Sometimes things get hot in weird places. Like I remember just one day I'll sit with my brother and I was like, for some reason, Indonesia is fucking loving good people, I don't know why, and you don't get these answers.
Dude, you make high quality music. Like I've already talked about 2 tracks that made me wonder if I'd listened to them and heard them in Shoppers Drug Mart or whatever. So like the sound I think is an accessible sound that I can believe, yeah, randomly hits a playlist here or there and picks up a bunch of momentum. You know,
No, and
that's one of the reasons I'm talking to you, man. You know,
and we ride the waves. It's like, man, I don't know how to keep the stream to 30,000 people.
Yeah,
you know, maybe one day I will.
keep swinging. I think honestly, man, keep just doing what you're doing, and yeah, keep consistent with it. That's the one thing is the consistency thing tends to actually be very real. I think, and it can be a pain in the ass, but you know, you said you like creating consistently like that, so. You know, it's good to keep that going, man. What social media do you use most often? And can I ask you also, tied into that, is social media a blessing or a pain in the ass?
It's fuck. It really is both. You know, you can't even just doing like that one meal a day thing that I've been doing. It's so, or even just the saying, more love, more success. It's interesting how even coming from a positive light, you know, I try my very best to stay as uplifting and positive as possible, but still people find a way to shit on the positivity. So it's like, as much as it is, it's such a blessing. And, you know, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I do without social media. It's to be balanced, and it's
yeah.
Poison is in the dosage, you know, and it really is with anything. So it's like, it's a blessing, it's a curse, it's both.
Right. Something to be balanced. That's a good quote. I like that, man. Which one do you use most often? Where can people, you know, follow you most?
The biggest thing right now for me, I think going strong, is the YouTube. It's growing like crazy, especially over the last few weeks, because I am posting a video every day. The podcast comes out weekly.
Yeah.
So you're really gonna get the biggest glimpse into all things Jay on the YouTube channel. But then after that, probably the best way to contact me is through Instagram. I'm always up on there as well.
Hey, can I ask you, are you seeing success with the YouTube Shorts then, like with the clips you're doing from your podcast?
Yeah, because it's like, you know, especially with it's an opportunity to create something of volume. You know, it's like because
that's an equation I'm still trying to figure out. Is like, you know, I have some other social media friends who are pushing some shorts and stuff like that, and you know, they give me tips like, you know, do it at a certain time of day. Make sure it's gonna post at 3 to 5 p.m. or whatever when your crowd's around, or just stuff like that. Or like something I've read online is like, make sure that the screen grab has somebody's face looking real shocked, right? Like the big surprise face, like, and then that makes people want to click it or whatever. Do you have any tips or tricks that you can add to that, Paul?
Absolutely. There's so many. So my biggest one is experiment. You know, it's like, it's okay. This is one of the things that gave me the most confidence when posting social media. It's like, a lot of people don't post because they're scared no one's going to see it. But don't worry. If no one sees it, then nobody saw it. You know? It's like, bro,
exactly.
you got nothing to lose. You got nothing to lose, everything to possibly gain from posting. And
people aren't thinking about us, man. People aren't thinking about it. The only people that think about it are the ones that like it. The other ones move on with their lives. Everybody's got a busy life and they're stressed out with whatever they're stressed out about. They got no time to think about the video they don't like, you know?
Yeah, 100%. So when it comes to me, especially what I'm doing, especially right now, because the whole YouTube Shorts thing is new to me. But, you know, I've had a couple clips go over, you know, get a few thousand clicks every once in a while. But to be honest, I can't tell the difference between the ones that get 20.
Right.
So I just keep posting.
That's it for me. Some of them just shoot up and get a bunch of plays, and I'm like, what did I do on that one that I wasn't on this one? Maybe it's the topic we were talking about, or I don't know. Other people have said like that, whether it has captions that you've pre-generated before you load the video up, that the algorithm might be hating on it for having pre-generated captions rather than the YouTube generated ones or something. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's all that's the whole learning curve, and that's why I'm on this show talking to people or whatever, is just to try to figure out how the fuck we beat all these systems that the billionaires have set up for us to operate in, right?
Oh, 100. I think you're slowly I think we're all slowly figuring it out, you know. It's just like, but at least you're out here trying to shit, you know.
Yeah, well,
It's so
and
much.
if we can put some new music in some new ears and maybe link up some artists who don't know each other or have never heard each other, you know, I think that's the dream, right? Like try to promote the scene as much as possible. So yeah, appreciate you coming on here, man. I don't want to take up your whole night. We've already went over time, but yeah, thanks for doing this, man.
No, thank you so much for having me, and thank you, Doug, again for everything that you're trying to do. I think it's beautiful, and I think it's necessary.
Hell yeah, man. So necessary. Somebody should be out here doing it. I appreciate you coming through, man. All right.
No problem, bro.
Peace, dude. All right, everybody. That was Flying Formation with JusJrdn. Super dope interview. I enjoyed that one. I hope everybody had a good time watching it. Tuesdays, next Tuesday, I'm talking to two other guys from Lethbridge. It's Donnie Sage and Alchemy the Linguist. That's November 21st. And on November 28th, we're going to finish out season 3. Well, no, we're going to finish out season 2, I mean to say, of Flying Formation, talking to Run and Gun, who are from Mississauga. So looking forward to that, November 28th. And then I'm taking December off, and we're coming back for January, February 2024, starting season 3 of Flying Formation. I already have, I think, like 10 acts booked, and I'm excited about them. I haven't shared those names just yet, and I'm not gonna right now, but I appreciate everybody coming by to watch. If you like these, make sure you hit follow. If you're watching on YouTube, maybe go over to Twitch, hit follow over there. That way you can, you know, get the notification, or at least tune in if you see me on other social media talking about it. Come follow me on other social media. On Instagram, I'm dubious. It's at DOOBYIS, and then there's an underscore after it. That's annoying, but that's the way it is. Probably Instagram and Threads are where I'm most active lately. Come by, tap in, say hi on Twitch. I love y'all. Peace.